Now to a story that is getting a lot of attention today. Iceland's foreign minister is defending his prime minister after the leader's name was linked to a possible global ring of money laundering. It is the first response we've heard from those named in a massive leak being called the Panama Papers, and it reveals where world leaders and billionaires hide their money.
There has nothing illegal been put forward regarding my prime minister. Nothing illegal. His wife inherited quite a lot of money. They were living outside of Iceland at the time. Her bank gave her advice to keep it in these islands. And she had always paid taxes in Iceland from this money. So, you know, in my mind, is nothing strange there. In fact, it is quite strange to put his face on a poster with some criminals over the world. And that is something that is unfair and unpolite and should not be seen.
Don Dahler has been covering this story and is here with us now. Don, good to see you. This leak is being described bigger than Edward Snowden's expose. What's the most surprising takeaway from the documents?
The most surprising takeaway, I would have to say, is the number of world leaders who are actually allegedly involved in this sort of activity. We have to keep in mind that these were leaked documents. We don't have necessarily a true chain of custody there. That raises the questions whether these will be prosecutable without outside investigations being done. But that said, there are some people who's been listed in these documents who are frankly surprising, not the least of whom is British Prime Minister David Cameron. His father, according to these documents, actually formed an offshore company in order to avoid taxes in the UK.
Speaking of that, the documents describe what's being called shell companies. Explain what they are exactly.
Yeah, shell companies are sometimes they're just a post office box somewhere offshore where you might have a letterhead, business cards, that sort of thing. You might even have a management team whose names are on the letterhead. But what they are, in effect, is a place to park money, move money around. And there are certain countries that allow this where it's legal. It's not legal inside the U.S., although there are some Americans who deal in the Caymans and the Bahamas and places like that where it is legal. It's a way to hide money, sometimes not even illegally. Sometimes it's from an ex-wife, or
yeah,
you know, that kind of, not that that's acceptable behavior,
right,
but it's not always nefarious in terms of criminal activities.
So we've put up a full screen there of some of the world leaders or some of the leaders that are implicated in this leak. We throw it back up there, and you see, okay, Vladimir Putin. You see. So we had there they go.
Yeah,
Petro Poroshenko. Abdelaziz Al Saud. I'm not surprised to see this list, but then when you point out Prime Minister Cameron's father, that's a little bit more surprising. So what are the implications here?
Right. Well, and we have to be clear, too, with Putin. He wasn't directly implicated at this point, but some very close associates of his were, and in terms of laundering money there. So that's why his name is out there, because as you can imagine, there's hardly anything that goes on in Russian finances that Putin doesn't know about. Right. So that was surprising. There are some larger ramifications that are already starting to be seen here. As you mentioned, the Prime Minister of Iceland may have to face a flash re-election elections, and Ukraine's Poroshenko, we just saw him there. Mm-hmm. He might be in trouble over this. There's been a petition already has 16,000 signatures to try to either force him out of office or have another election.
So what's next in the investigation?
Well, that's the thing. It's just beginning. The journalists have had these documents, 11.5 million documents. They've had them for months. They've been poring over them and finally have been making some of the information public out there. There are investigations going on now in a couple countries, and sure to be more. The question is whether leaked documents in and of themselves will be proof enough to prosecute people. They're going to have to use that as a starting point and then go and do their own searches to find out what the real truth is here. And these people who run these operations are very good at covering their tracks. So it's going to be a challenge.
I imagine. Don Dahler, thank you so much.
Sure.